Welcome to Roleplay Cafe. It's Dale here again. I thought I'd stop and I just listened to Anthony Runeslinger's VR to both Ivan and Jason's videos discussing the sanity mechanic in Call of Cthulhu and the game that Anthony is running for Ivan, and there may be others. But his first intention, he said, was run it for Ivan, which those videos are up. I'd suggest going to watch them. But at the end, Anthony said, if anybody wants to continue this on, or essentially, I thought I'd get on here and get my 2 cents, because it did bring, of course, like so many subjects in role playing games in particular, gets the wheels turning. And what Anthony, essentially, one of the things he pointed out was like basically how cathartic it would be to, like rolling dice as part of the, in other words, the mechanic, the physical motion of rolling and throwing dice, for example, is tied to like roll initiative, roll to hit. So it isn't, maybe it supports immersion. If you're more so inclined to not be taken aback by breaking the immersion of the moment or the situational moment that you could be in role playing, and saying, let's get out mechanically and do this. And some people, like you said, may consider it work if they're more inclined to role play. And I can see that, and of course, anybody who's played, it's a visceral excitement to roll that dice and see, what you do. It's an extension of play. People love rolling dice, so, I get that. As far as the horror concerned with the sanity mechanic, which he spoke upon, like, it's almost like a break. And I'm not copying, or quoting him exactly. This is just me and how I'm perceiving what he's saying and how I'm internalizing it. But like, to me, it's more like if you're in the moment and in the situation and something horrific happens, and then you have to roll and what may pull others out, it essentially marks almost like has a jarring effect, to where you have to be aware of what's going on, plus you have to be aware of the sanity level that's affecting you. So in effect, at the table, when you're having to multitask, as it were, like Anthony gives the examples of, like dealing with multiple things, whether it's children or any such jobs where we've had that you have to multitask at. It can be mentally or physically fatiguing. So, it does break that and adds an aspect of that to your play, to where you've got to contend with more things. You've got to be aware that your character's going insane and monitor that too. Where the question was put up before is, well, why necessarily roll for, a certain marker of sanity, or degradation of sanity. Why couldn't you just role play it, or in a way, which you would. But if something's rolled and it prompts you to realize that, I could see in the same light as like viscerally rolling dice, it would still be effective at the table as a gamer, to where you got another thing to contend with. So that is, a point well taken. I don't think there's been much consideration in how exactly, like when you go into this from role play to mechanics, how mechanics themselves can be effective on the player and his representation of the character. Yeah, it reminded me a couple of years ago. I think my son Jory ran us through a little. I think it was a Halloween one shot or something. But he had the Jenga tower out, and as we delve deeper into the woods and things get more heightened, you know, whenever a check was needed, you would pull a piece of piece of Jenga, a Jenga block out of the pile, and hold your breath and hope it wouldn't fall. So that tension that was meant to be applied to the player and transposed in real time at the table was a reflection of what was going on in the game. So hand in hand. So I get Anthony's point there. You know, if mechanics are, I'd use the word clever enough, but you know, or especially maybe even themed or contrived in a way that where it's an extension of or a representation of what is going on uh, in game, and it can be applied at the table too to have a similar effect on the player. That can be like an echo of what is going on in game. So that is that's a legitimate, in my view, point that he's making here. You know, I think he said some people may be more inclined toward role play, and then anything mechanically derived would be more an invasion of that role play and pull you out of the immersion, where other people are more into the mechanics and don't mess with the other stuff. I believe he said, the role playing, so to speak. But in my experience, I think there's a disparaging difference in players. It seems that people gravitate more so toward mechanics because they can be understood and quantified more so readily than people's ability to really enjoy being in a spotlight, improvisational type mode of role play. When the table and have that spotlight on them, they have to answer a question or at least respond in kind to what their character's doing. So it may offer safe harbor for those that are not really inclined to play that way, but still wish to be involved in an adventure and know that they can solidly grasp the mechanics of a game and build their characters and respond in kind and pull from a list of abilities or whatnot and apply them in play to what the character does. And there's nothing wrong with that. There's various styles of play. I think in general with Dark Age of Man, like I said, there's disparaging difference in between play styles where there wasn't really a lot of people that loved to play in a way of immersive role playing in the moment. And this is what we do a lot with Dark Age of Man. There's scenes to where you're invested in it. And like I said, I mentioned the other day, what's ironic is, the things that we are saying in game, the narrative description, whether from a point of mimesis, from the character or diegetically spoken about what is happening in the scene around them, that is a mechanic itself. It's a narrative mechanic. You do a lot of mental resource management in gameplay by recognizing and being aware of all that is going around you to where you can take advantage of things that are going around you. Like last night or yesterday rather, we played, and there was a point in time where I took advantage of the Lord, the nobleman's mother, who was in the abbey in a different town. So I'd gotten her, and was going to use her as hostage. But just that acute awareness of things in your surroundings, where you grab from, and that's the needed part of immersion too, to be in story or be in the scene, is so you can, and that's why people don't like to break it so much and want to get back to it in that kind of style of game, and why, like Anthony said, when you pull out to do something, it isn't really, um, for immersive play with very improvisational, you know, uh, feedback and back and forth at the table. Um, it does kind of break it a little bit if you have to stop and roll. So I understand that, and I understand from how it may be jarring. Um, you know, in the mechanic is utilized to jar the player at the table, which can fold over into the character himself. And of course, there's earmarked on there is the negative aspect of the character sheet, how he becomes deficient at doing other things inside of the game because of negative, the negative sanity component that he has to work through, and balance himself, or maybe he needs to go regain some calm, or maybe needs some therapy, or whatever the situation is. So it does clue somebody in about their character's health or mental well-being or whatnot, which may be pertinent or needed for the game. If the focus is on sanity in particular. So um, I thought it was real interesting. All three videos I watched them. Anthony's points were well made, and as well as Ivan and Jason's. Some strong videos. I'd recommend anybody watching them. That was just my 2 cents from gathering it. So, and it's interesting to think about that. And I think both Jason and I agree that I know mechanics. And even I said I look at the narrative aspects of mechanics. It's still a mechanical component inside of even Dark Age Man. But breaking away and doing physical mechanics, or looking at stat sheets, or what have you, that isn't really a problem. I always like to say that mechanics need to be under the hood where you can enjoy the ride. As long as they're not so invasive, or they're not redundant, or they don't pull you out of so much. And if they do allow, like the Jenga tower, or the rolling to hit, or some kind of cathartic release of you, the player, and how that exchange is at the table uh, between you and your character and the player, and doing something that can heighten play. So I can see that. But in general, I mean, I think historically, a lot of games have been really heavily mechanized, and needlessly so, when they need to be streamlined, in my opinion, and to where it could give a more balanced play and encourage more people to delve into the narrative mechanic, or those scenes to where you inhabit a character and you interact. For those that wish to do that, I think a lot of those doors it's not really been welcoming to have people play in that way. So much so, and I think people have a natural, almost like a stage fright from doing that, where they feel more secure. Maybe some. I don't want to speak for everybody, but I'm just saying, historically, um, from the way games have been designed and built, it was built on precedents, or the foundation of mechanics, and adding more mechanics on top of mechanics. So I'm glad to see recently, in the last, as far as my involvement in the last several years, in especially me getting into more various different types of games, that there are more minimalist games out there that really encourage uh, narrative and character involvement, and with minimally invasive mechanics that can let you get back to the role play. So I like to have that back and forth, but nothing that if I've played some pretty heavily countered war games back in the day, and I love it, and I can immerse myself in that, and I can envision it while I'm playing it, and I love getting into the math of it all. But like I said, a real game. But if we're playing a role playing game, I want the role playing aspect to be upheld and encouraged. And that's what, in large degree, we're trying to do with Dark Age Man, is encourage more of that kind of play and not really shut the gate for people, or bolster some kind of a learning curve to where it's a mountain to get over. Most people, I've said it before, everybody has a basis of probably a seventh grade education, and I don't mean that derogatorily. I'm talking about as far as a day to day awareness to when you're just involvement. And the last thing a person wants to do, including myself, is sit down and read some kind of a massive rule book. That you can encourage more people into coming into the fold to play role playing games if you lower that mechanical bar, as it were, and get them going. And if they want to taste a more mechanical game, and have that leaning to do that, there are plenty out there. There are plenty out there, but we need to encourage, I think, both more players as well as more IC play, because like we discovered with the games of Dark Age of Man, yesterday was a perfect example. There was very subtly complex interplay in the narrative and the situational content of the game that was crunchy. So anyway, I'll let you go, but again, go watch those videos and the talk. Is pretty interesting discussions, and just thought I'd throw my 2 cents in there. All right, y'all take care. Bye.